This is the content of maintenance items for the cutting machine. Each item can be moved by time. You can see how to use the cutter in general by clicking on the card in the upper right corner. When the power does not turn on, if the dust collector motor works but the saw blade does not turn, use it after resting for about 15 minutes. Make sure the emergency switch is pressed. The machine will not operate if the emergency switch is pressed. Check that the main breaker on the left column is down. Make sure the power cord is firmly plugged in. The main circuit breaker on the left column automatically lowers and cuts off power when the saw motor is overloaded. Be sure to operate the cutter switch only when cutting the plate. This way you can use it without time limit. If the cutter power is continuously operated for more than 30 minutes, the metal of the motor operates and the dust collection motor operates, but the saw does not turn. In this case, cool down the motor for about 15 minutes and then use it again. How to change saw blade. Before replacing saw blades or performing maintenance, be sure to press the emergency switch and unplug the power cord. First, open the cover of the saw blade box on the right side. Hold the 5mm hex wrench supplied with the machine in your right hand and the 8mm spanner in your left hand. Fix the shaft on the back of the motor with an 8mm spanner and use a hex wrench to turn the saw blade flange bolt counterclockwise to loosen it. Check the direction of the saw blade carefully before installing it. Mount so that the MBOLT logo is visible. Check that the inner diameter of the saw blade is correctly fitted into the inner flange. Tighten the flange bolt slightly and turn the saw blade by hand to make sure there are no parts touching the machine. If there is no contact, tighten the flange bolts very tightly. Before use, connect the power and run a test drive to check if the saw blade is properly installed. What to do if the saw blade is not level? The saw blade should be level with the rear wing in line with it. If the saw blade and rear wing are not level, the material will be difficult to cut or the first and last dimensions of the cut will be different. Here is a workaround in this case. If you look at the bottom of the cutter, there are 3 fixing bolts on the front of the motor and 3 fixing bolts on the back of the motor. After lightly loosening the 6 motor fixing bolts, align the rear wing and the saw blade so that they are in a straight line. After that, tighten the 6 bolts firmly. By cutting the material, you can check the saw blade adjustment. When the dimensions of the beginning and end of the cutting are different, align the left L-shaped guide at right angles. In other words, the angle of the L-shaped guide must be more than 90 degrees. If not, The size of the cutting material is different from the beginning and the end, or the saw blade gets caught in the back wing during cutting, and it does not proceed. Unscrew the 4 combined bolts and place them parallel to the left side of the machine top plate. As mentioned before, the top of the L-shaped guide should be about 0.5 mm wider than the bottom. After adjusting the L-shaped guide, tighten the bolts firmly. Align the right T-guide at right angles. When cutting a material using the right T-guide, if the dimensions of the first and the end of the cutting material are different, the right angle of the T-guide must be realigned. When measuring the left and right sides of the T-guide with a right angle, if the right angle is not correct, loosen the fasten bolts slightly. Align the right angle of the T-guide using a square measure. Tighten the bolts with moderate force. Cut the material as a test and measure the right angle. Once the right angle is right, tighten the bolts securely. What to do when dust collection does not work? If foreign matter accumulates on the joint of the upper dust collection pipe, dust cannot be collected. If debris builds up on the inside of the upper saw blade cover, it will not collect dust. When tightening after cleaning the dust collection box, if there is a gap due to not being properly combined with the main body, dust collection will not work. After cleaning the dust collection box, the dust on the floor must be cleaned so that the dust collection box is properly installed without any gaps. If the dust collection hole of the right saw blade box is blocked, dust collection will not be possible. In particular, in summer when the humidity is high, the dust collection hole may become clogged, so check before use. What to do when the left L-shaped guide fixing clamp is loose? There are 2 clamps on the front for fixing the left L-shaped guide. If the clamp becomes loose while using the cutter, the guide will not be fixed even if the clamp is tightened. Slide the guide to the left and look down from the top to see the clamp rod. Insert the 4 mm hex wrench supplied with the machine into the center hole of the fixture. Turning the hex wrench counterclockwise will raise the retainer and allow the loosened clamp to operate normally. The clamp may not work if turned too far. Turn the hex wrench half a turn to find the appropriate clamp strength. If the clamp does not work after turning it too far, turn the hex wrench clockwise again. How to replace a sliding guide bearing? If the bearings of the sliding guide are damaged or lost, replace them with the bearings provided as spares. Remove the old bearing using the 8 mm spanner provided with the machine and replace it with a new one. When unfolding the rear workbench, press the workbench lock with your right hand and hold the end of the workbench with your left hand, and slowly apply force to unfold the workbench. When folding the workbench, press down on the workbench with your left hand until it clicks. Workbench lock automatically locks. When connecting the extension guide provided as standard to the T-guide, it must be connected at the center of the sliding guide. That way, the extended part is level. Connect the extension guide and tighten it firmly with the provided hex wrench. When not using the extension guide, remove it and store it at the bottom of the machine.